coming to you from the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame studios. Check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame at lasportshall.com for you golfers out there. The ultimate golf experience. Squire Creek, North Louisiana, #1 golf course in the state of Louisiana. Celebrities for galore, from Kyle Williams to Todd Walker to Will Clark to Justin Vincent to many, many more. Paul Maneri and et cetera are going to be there. And it's coming up April 5th, Masters Week, the Tuesday of the Masters. We're going to have a celebrity golf tournament the night before in Shreveport at Bally's Casino, a great Final Four championship game party hosted by Tim Brando and John Brady. They'll be there breaking down the game. We'll be watching it, raising money for the Hall of Fame. You know, men, women, families, are invited. Bring a date, bring your wife. So all that, check it out at lasportshall.com. Especially if you're a golfer or a sports fan, you're going to love it. Tommy, today we got a whole bunch of stuff to get to. We'll kind of hit on them real quick. A big story in Baton Rouge. LSU hires Matt McMahon, the head coach for Murray State the last 7 years, who's done a nice job there. They get a good quality coach, even though they're facing sanctions. We don't know what that is and what it'll look like in a few number of months when it comes out. Probably about as good a hire as Scott Woodward could have gotten under the circumstances. We'll break down some March Madness. We're down to the Sweet 16 on the men's and women's side. TK will have your meat and potatoes USA.com pick to win it for the men and the women. Also, an upset of who he likes, who's the biggest upset he likes in the next round. Also tonight, LSU and Louisiana Tech in baseball. That game was postponed from a day ago when the weather came through yesterday. They had postponed it to today already. And how about this? Jay Johnson names a starting pitcher in the press release. What's going on? Will Helmers, the former Jesuit sophomore, will get the start for LSU. I imagine he'll be one of 7 or 8 pitchers. The LSU women's season came to an end, and it was a big and not a good one for Kim Mulkey and the gang in front of over 8,000, which is considered a sellout. They don't open the upper deck at the PMAC. They had over 8,000 fans jammed into the PMAC in the lower bowl and laid a giant golden egg. Jameis Winston to the New Orleans Saints. They locked him up for another couple of years, although Mel Kiper and the national pundits still have the Saints taking Pickett in the first round, according to their mock drafts, even after Jameis Winston signed with the Saints. We'll see Tommy's thoughts on that. Spring training is underway. Can't believe they're starting already. Guys just showed up at spring training. And some major rule changes for you Major League Baseball fans. Tommy will tell us about that. And also the Jay Johnson effect on my dinner reservations post-game. We'll talk about that as well. What's up, Harry? Big Harry Barrios, former national champion and teammate, joining us up in Michigan, where it's much colder than the 50, 60-degree beautiful weather we have here today. TK, first off, let's go down the list. Matt McMahon, the head coach of LSU basketball. Is this as good as they could do, the Murray State coach?
Well, it's a very good hire on paper. 43 years old. His resume, which I'm guessing everybody read it, is very impressive. And I think with the sanctions pending, I like the fact that he's willing to accept that challenge, and he's got a 7-year deal, and some things will get added to that depending on the sanctions, kind of like the same thing that happened to Scott Woodward's contract. So I think it's a message by Woodward to the NCAA that, hey, we want to get on the other side of the problem with Will Wade. Okay, we're moving forward. We're turning the page. Give us our medicine. We'll take it. And I really like this hire on paper. Now, he hadn't coached a game yet. We know that whole story, but lots of guys have come out of Murray State and done very well. There was a list, including New Orleans' own Billy Kennedy, a Holy Cross graduate who jumped from there into the big time. So, and this guy coached Ja Morvant, one of the top players in the NBA, who maybe that guy can help get some players into LSU. He's recruited well to Murray State. And I know it's kind of a canned comment, but he said, LSU is a great opportunity, great athletic department across the board. They're good. And I like the hire on paper. And obviously it's something Woodward worked on for a little while because he just lost a game Saturday night. Murray State got beat by St. Peter's, who's like the Cinderella story. We'll get to that later. But I like it. Family guy, wife, 3 kids. He was at the LSU-Ohio State women's game the other night. Took a lot of pictures with people. And I think it's a good hire. Time will tell.
His contract's pretty good too. He'll get $2.6 million in year 1, and it'll go up $100,000 a year all the way to year 5, where he'll make $3 million a year. This is all before incentives, any postseason incentives or anything like that. So obviously a lot more money than he was making at Murray State for sure. So, I think it was a very good hire. I like the fact that it happened quickly, Tommy, which tells me also that Scott Woodward was probably behind the scenes. He knew we all knew this day was going to happen, and he was kind of ready to go with his short list. And Stephanie Remp turned her loose the minute that it was official that Will Wade was out, talking to people, and they got it done quickly. So, LSU didn't mess around. It's a good pick. They got him at a young age. They gave him a 5-year contract. And if he wins anything, I'm sure they'll redo the contract and tear it up. So I think this was an excellent pick for LSU. And now the question becomes, what do the players think? Can he recruit the players? And that was part of probably getting him in ASAP, to give him a chance to keep some of these guys out of the transfer portal. Not that they couldn't go at any point in time, but it gives them a chance to get in there first, meet these fellas, and hope he can recruit the players that they have, because they have good players on the roster and they have a very good class coming in on paper, although a couple of them have already announced they've opened and back up their deal. Let's also talk a little March Madness before we get to the LSU women. Sweet 16, Tommy, is when you look at the bracket and what's left, we know St. Peter's is a 15 seed. It's only the third time that a 15 seed has made it to the Sweet 16, albeit the 3 times have all come in the last 10 years, mind you, which is pretty interesting. They may be on paper have the best chance to advance because they are so good on defense and everything. You've got 3 seeds, 11 or higher, that are still alive in the Sweet 16. Actually, 4 seeds, 11 or higher, that are still alive. That's a quarter of the field. What's your takeaway on the biggest upset of a low seed, or a high seed rather, of a low seed? Which one do you like the most coming up?
There's a lot of short numbers in the Sweet 16. I mean, there's only a couple of double-digit spreads. One of them is St. Peter's against Purdue. North Carolina has just been quietly getting things done. Now, they're an 8 seed. They play UCLA, who's a 4 seed, and UCLA is a 5-6 point favorite, depending on where you shop. So I don't know if that's a big upset, but I like North Carolina to keep it going against UCLA. We got 4 games Thursday, 4 games Friday. The St. Peter's Cinderella story, yeah, it's kind of warm and fuzzy to jump on it, but they're like 15-point dogs to Purdue, who's a really good team out of the Big Ten, which the Big Ten and the SEC was solid all season long, but their postseason success, and I always think that's overblown. It's one game, it's not an 18-game conference schedule, but I like North Carolina to be the lower seed that beats the higher seed in the Sweet 16.
By the way, I forget to mention this, and Craig Schilling brought it up, so we can pop it up on the screen. Key was giving Matt McMahon extra years on the contract if sanctions hit. Forgot to mention that, make that point. That is important. It's some verbiage.
I mentioned that, yeah.
Yeah,
that's like Woodward had the same thing, and he got 2 years when they got that letter 2 weeks ago.
That'll make it pretty good. So, look at it, from the standpoint of what he has on paper right now, roughly $15 million, basically guaranteed, and plus some.
And, Ronnie, let's point out something we said Monday on Sports Shorts Daily. With the transfer portal, if you can get 2 guys,
yeah,
and if somehow you get 3, you can turn basketball around a lot quicker than you can maybe do football or baseball, although the portal helps all of those. So, Mac McMahon's going to go to work. He's going to have to put a staff together. I read the bio on all of his assistants at Murray State. There's some pretty good names there. Also talk about whether Tasman Mitchell would remain on the staff because of all of his ties in Louisiana. Not because he played at LSU, but because of the ability to recruit with the Louisiana high schools, et cetera. So that's next for LSU men's basketball. He putting the staff together. I'm sure he's talking players who could possibly return. He's re-recruiting them. But as Craig said, those extra years is probably why he's willing to bite this, accept this challenge. And he knows that if kaboom in July we find out there's no postseason for a year or there's a scholarship limitation, he's just going to go through it like John Brady did back in the 90s.
By the way, A couple of things. Tasman Mitchell is well liked by the coaches around the state of Louisiana, so that would be a great keep. The other one is with Matt McMahon. The Iowa State showed everybody the roadmap to transfer portal. They were 0-18 a year ago in their conference, and then this year they make it to the Sweet 16, and who knows what happens to them. And they literally had 3 players of substance left on the roster from a year ago. So they're clearly the map to success.
Well, and let me say this, okay? This is up to Matt McMahon about Tasman Mitchell. You remember everybody's hair got on fire. Brian Kelly, would he keep Corey Raymond? Would he keep Kevin Falk? And, he chose not to for whatever the reason. He's going forward with his guys. We got to give Matt McMahon the same, pass right there. That if he wants Mitchell, great. If he don't, he's the coach. He's got a 7-year contract, which could turn into more years, as Craig pointed out. So it's up to him. It's not up to you and me and Craig and anybody else. It's up to Matt McMahon.
Let's move on to the okay. So you gave us North Carolina, which I like that. North Carolina showed a lot of gumption going into overtime after blowing the 25-point lead against Baylor and still having the fortitude to win it. They've had time to rest now, so that's a good pick over UCLA. Who do you like to win it all? If you had to pick one team out of the 16, who do you think goes the distance?
The same team I said when it started, Gonzaga. I just think Gonzaga's got all the pieces. The coach is, tried and true, been there, done that. I think, I think they got the shortest odds on winning it all right now, followed quickly by Kansas. But I've liked Gonzaga all along. And Trey Blossman, who does a lot of podcasts with me on Talking Sports with TK, he said halfway through the season, he said Gonzaga's going to win it all. I started paying attention to that. So my meat and potatoes USA.com thought is Gonzaga wins it all.
Probably not a bad pick, considering the experience that they've had as a program, the experience they had last year, that burning desire, that they didn't get it done, and so not a bad one right there. If you had
Is that kind of like the old Skip Bertman thing? You got to get there before
once
you actually do it. I don't know. I just throwing that in there real quick,
Let's move on to LSU women's basketball. For Craig Schilling, it was the first women's basketball game he's ever watched. They sure fall on the floor a lot. Craig,
I got to say something, Friday. And I hope Kim Mulkey's not listening. I watched every minute of the game the other night. We had a group of us at a local watering hole. I watched every minute, had the volume up in this place. Kind of what you said a couple of weeks ago. It's tough to watch. Okay? It's I don't know. I don't know how I know the ball's a little bit smaller than the men's ball. Maybe the rim needs to be lowered a little bit. I don't know. It's just I'm going to agree that it's tough to watch for the most part. It
is. Look, if LSU's not on their chest, I'm not watching. It just is what it is. You can be mad at me if you're a season ticket holder or your daughter plays or whatever. My daughter played basketball in junior high and elementary school, and it was tough to watch then. It doesn't get any better when they get older. That's all I'm going to say. All right.
I'm trying to be nice there, but I did watch every minute of the game. And, Ronnie, full disclosure, I had Ohio State on the money line.
Yeah, and of course, and it makes sense, but you take your heart out of it. LSU looked terrible against Jackson State in the second half, and if you can look that bad against a 14 seed and have to do it in less than 48 hours later, play another one, makes sense to go with Ohio State, especially for a team and a program that just hasn't been there in a while, hasn't done it in a while. None of those players have any tournament experience, playing in front of 8,000 with tons of pressure and everything. With one of their best players still not 100%, that you could see that one coming if you.
And here's another thing, right? A person that sat with me to watch the game the other night. She's been to 6, 7, or 8 of the women's games. So before the tip off, I asked her. I said, "Hey, give me the what I'm about to watch." She described it to a T with the 2 big girls that can't move. She gave me like a full-blown scouting report, and I almost doubled down my wager after she told me that. I didn't, but anyway. So, but I like Kim Mulkey's quotes after the game. It was a good year. They did things nobody expected them to do, and she thinks it's laying the foundation for the future.
By the way, Byron Painter and Craig Schilling, both bad luck. Maybe Craig and I were bad
And
luck.
I am. It's three of us. Me, Byron, and Craig need to not watch it.
First women's game ever. Tommy, first women's game ever.
It's the first time I watched one front to back. Yeah.
Front to back. Well, I'll say this. That's also shows you the Kim Mulkey effect, because if she's not the coach at LSU, you're not watching it.
Correct. Or I wouldn't have watched it all, and I'd have checked the score on the phone. Because I do that. I would check their score on the phone. We'd have a bunch of us sitting around. We knew the women were playing. I'd be pulling it up like, hey, they're up 60 to 56 with 6 minutes to go. So the interest level is definitely up. Now, we'll see how it goes going forward.
LSU, Louisiana Tech tonight in baseball. LSU trying to get revenge. They got throttled up in Ruston over a month ago in the freezing cold up there. They take on a Tech team who's not playing as well as they'd like. They're unranked. They're a very veteran team. I look for them to turn things around as the season goes on. But this game, I'm glad they're playing it tonight. When they postponed it initially, they said, well, a later date to be determined. And I thought, you already got one game pushed to the end. Like, let's just get it in on Wednesday, because they fly out to Florida tomorrow. Does LSU on a charter, and I'm glad they are. They're getting it in. Will Helmer's going to get the start. He'll be the first in the pitching carousel, which is I'm glad that they announced who it's going to be, and that's something Jay Johnson hasn't been doing. Both starting pitchers were announced. But the Jay Johnson effect, Tommy, is real on if you have plans to do anything else. We should have known at the first pitch banquet when Anthony Renato interviewed him on stage, and Jay, he said something when they were talking about the upcoming season, and he was talking about pitchers throwing a lot of strikes and working fast and that kind of thing. And Anthony said, yeah, great. We love a quick, fast game, and all that. And Jay laughed, and I was sitting at the athletic director's table next to the coaches, and the coaches all started laughing, and we're like, I don't know about that. And Jay even said, yeah, I'm sorry, the games are going to be long and all that. And we just kind of blew it off at that moment. But he was telling the truth, because these are the longest baseball games I've ever been a part of, to the part of frustration. Over the weekend, when you add up LSU's 9 innings of baseball, the 9-inning games, none of them went extra innings. These were the longest 9-inning games for a weekend LSU's ever hosted at Alex Box Stadium. It's just every game is 4 hours, and some of them are 5. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it really is. It's tough to watch. Look, I'm all about watching baseball, and I'm not one of these guys that wants it to be over in 3 hours, but I don't want it going 4 hours and 52 minutes, which is what happened Saturday night. 9 innings. Yeah, that was
9-inning game. It's almost impossible to do without a rain delay.
Well, it's just, I don't know. It's just tough. I don't know if it's because it's his first year. Everybody's getting used to him. He and his staff are getting used to the players. But, it's just the trips to the mound, and then they send the catcher out there, and then the ump makes the catcher go back, and then the coach comes out to make the change. You were going to make the change. And I know sometimes you're trying to let the guy get loose in the pen, whatever, but it just seems a little tough. Like you said, like 6:30 game tonight, you can't make a little 9:30 late dinner reservation. Like, hey, I'll meet you guys at 9:30 tonight. I'm going to go to the baseball game. Because if you stay the whole game, you're not going to be anywhere but 9:30, but still at the box.
Right. I hope. Listen, you can't tell a coach how to change his way of coaching, but I would hope that Scott Woodward would say, just, hey, man, because I'll tell you this. I was disappointed at the crowd over the weekend from LSU baseball. It was absolutely perfect weather. Right. If you went to the St. Patty's Day Parade and all that kind of stuff during the day, they played at night. Friday night, the weather was amazing. Sunday, the weather was amazing. It was at 2 o'clock, so if you slept in late with a hangover, you went to church, you had no excuse. So the LSU baseball fans for opening weekend against Texas A&M, very disappointed in the crowd, to the point of, like, real disappointment and frustration like that. Like, when you looked at the crowds that are around the Ole Miss crowd and others, they were way better environments. But like the whole myth of LSU baseball that, oh, it's the best. No, not anymore. It's not. Go to an Arkansas game on a SEC weekend when the weather's decent. Go to Ole Miss when the weather's. Go to Mississippi State. If you've never been there, then don't talk and say, oh, LSU baseball is the best. No, the old box was 7,000 people right on you yelling and screaming because they were all so hot and miserable and their sweaty thighs were touching and all that. It's too comfortable now. And people wait to come for a regional or wait to come for May. And the tickets it's not expensive enough, I guess, because they don't use them. So I don't know what happened, but LSU fans have to play a part in getting behind this team. And if the weather's good and you're a season ticket holder, come. And if you can't use it, give it to somebody to use. But that was disappointing and a little bit of a bad sign for the first weekend in SEC play in ideal conditions to be disappointed with the crowd. All right, let's move on to Jameis Winston. Your reaction: the Saints get it done. They don't get Watson. They go ahead and sign Winston. 2 years, he can make up to $28 million. They're on the hook for a guaranteed about 21 or 2, which is about the same amount of money they're on the hook for with Taysom Hill, by the way, with the new contract that they redid last year. Do you? How do you like the Jameis Winston signing, Tommy? And then nextly, do you think this means the Saints are out of the Kenny Pickett sweepstakes?
I like the signing because it shows something we saw, like with the hiring of Dennis Allen, the continuity. It seems that Mickey Loomis and Dennis Lauschka, they want guys that have been around. Everybody knows Winston. Winston knows everybody, including Dennis Allen, even though Peyton's out of the picture. The continuity is there. And before he got hurt last year, his numbers were respectable. So I like this situation. And I don't think Winston is worried about the Watson thing. He understands the business of the NFL. I mean, we see it every day. So I think, and he's reportedly ahead of schedule with his rehab, and he's going to work hard, and the Saints are going to cast their lot with him. And then you got, Ian Book and Blake Bortles are the other two guys on the roster. They're going to end the Taysom Hill quarterback experience. Of all the great things Sean Payton did, thinking Hill was a quarterback is not on that list. So I'm okay with the hiring of Winston. And now you can put your head down. He's a starter. There won't be any quarterback competition in the OTAs or in the fall camp. It's all going to be, it's all going to be Jameis Winston's team, and I'm okay with it.
I like the Jameis Winston decision. It tells me that they obviously had 2 years to look behind the curtain, Tommy, and felt like he had improved as a man, as a quarterback. Clearly, you look at the numbers just from a snapshot with the only 2 turnovers in the 7 games. That's clearly an improvement, although some were a little questionable still. I think for where you're at right now and the value, it's about as good as you can do. I think they still, if they have a quarterback that they really like in the first round, I think they should take him. We look at, I don't think that should keep them from doing it. We know it sounds like Taysom Hill is going to be maybe like the 3rd string quarterback. Keep him on your roster. He's your emergency quarterback. You don't have to worry about a 3rd string quarterback. You can have a 3rd string on the practice squad if you want. But I like the idea of Winston. You got Taysom Hill's a proven commodity, and you can win in the short term even with him. Go get you a young quarterback. If you believe Kenny Pickett or someone else is the guy, let him sit for a year or two. Then play him. I do believe for quarterbacks to get a lot of value in sitting and watching and learning for a year or two in the NFL before they're thrust in there.
Yeah, I think that don't be surprised if they draft a quarterback, somebody they think, like you said, come in and sit around behind Winston and compete and start learning the deal,
Lastly, Tommy, I got less than a minute here, so just give me 1 minute on spring training and the new rules and your thoughts.
The rosters can be up to 28 through May 1st. They will use the ghost runner in extra innings. And then there's a Shohei Ohtani rule where if you're pitching and they remove you as a pitcher, you can remain as the DH because there is a universal DH now. I've watched, 2 innings here, 2 innings there. I've seen a lot of different teams playing, and just because I love baseball. But, season's still, a little about 2 weeks away, and I'm excited about it.
Craig Schilling saying Alex Box is turning into Atlanta Turner Field wine and cheese crowd instead of beer in a cup crowd like Ole Miss and Arkansas has.
Good
Not a
point,
bad point.
That's a real good point.
And it goes to the old box. I've said it all along, and it is what it is. LSU needed to build a new stadium. The stadium's amazing and all that. Don't get me wrong. But the old box, when you went because you were a baseball fan, not because it was an event. Now people go because they want to be seen and they just want something to do. Alex Box was not comfortable. The concessions weren't great. The bathrooms weren't necessarily great.
The press box was garbage.
There was no press box. Yeah. So you basically went because you were a hardcore fan, and it made for a tougher environment. Brown's organization gave away the farm for Watson, so I think we have great value in Winston. Yeah, something to be said there. All right, TK, tell us about Tremonti's.
Hey, Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. They got lasagna for the lunch special today. Normally on Tuesday they do a crawfish special, but with the weather yesterday, they're moving that to today. So check out Facebook and Instagram. They'll post all of that stuff for you with the Wednesday crawfish special this week. They got live crawfish, boiled crawfish. They can do catering. You got all of that stuff for you at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Jefferson Highway, right down the street from Parkview Baptist Church and School. Connect on Facebook and Instagram. The Chairman's Reserve Meats. Everything you need. Wine, whiskey. It's all at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood in Baton Rouge.
All right, we'll be back on Friday, everyone, for more Sports Shorts Daily presented by LeBear